Hey, what is going on, everybody? I am Ryan Herrings, your host of Locked On Badgers. And it's just a quick live stream, right? It's kind of an emergency thing. It's not planned, but there's just so much content with football going on that I don't think we're getting into all of it unless we do some stuff like this. So it's an overreaction, underreaction show, right? Some things that I think are not being talked about enough, some things that I think are being talked about too much. And I would love your comments on it. Y'all let me know where you're at. If you think, I'm right on these overreactions or underreactions, and let's get right into it. Again, this is just a quick drop, just something to get more content out there because I love talking football. The season's here. We've been waiting for it so long. Let's talk. Overreaction number one. I get it. Listen, I understand where everybody's at on this, but the fire Chris talk right now is an overreaction. It just at the point of the season we're at, it's a bit of an overreaction. And I think what we've done probably is we've underestimated the amount of changes on the offensive side with the coaches, right? Paul Chryst is in a new role. Bobby Ingram, offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, has never done that before. Bob Bostad moving back over. Chris Herring has never coached tight ends. Al Johnson is a new coach. There's so much turnover on that side of the ball that I think we just thought there would be, and I don't think there was any real justification for this on our part. I think we just thought that there would be more cohesion, and I think it's going to take a little bit of time. Now, I am all for Paul Chryst needs to own some of this criticism. There needs to be accountability here because it hasn't been good enough, right? And that's on him. But we're 2 games in. I just caution everybody. Things can change quickly in sports, right? In life, in everything. We're 2 games in. Let's get a get right game against New Mexico State. Let's see how Ohio State looks. The West is pretty bad. The Badgers can still turn this around. The pressure needs to be on. Paul Chryst, I wish you'd take a little more accountability, but the fire Paul Chryst stuff right now, I think it's just a little premature. It's a little bit of an overreaction. And I say that with all due respect to a ton of people whose opinions I really respect that are very frustrated right now. I get it. But yeah, so I think that's an overreaction. Chris, I hear you, man. It's concerning to hear Chris talk about Graham Mertz taking shots down the field. I'm going to see if I can throw your comment on here. Yeah, I agree with that. We talked about that on the last show. Chris with a good comment. For some reason, I can't pop your comment up on the show, but people should be able to see it. I don't understand why Paul Chryst is talking about Graham Mertz taking too many shots down the field. I think that's a mistake. I think it's a mistake to do it in the press conference to begin with, right? Like it's almost undercutting your quarterback a little bit. And quite frankly, the deep passing game was one of the best parts of our offense. Drew 2 pass interference calls, deep shot to Keontae Lewis. I think you finally have Graham Mertz grooving it, feeling it, firing BBs down the field, and you're telling him to rein back. Again, I get all the criticism with Chryst. I really right there with you, but I think it's an overreaction. Some of the takes that he needs to be fired, he needs to be gone. We need to see how this season plays out, and we need to give this new coaching staff, especially in the offensive side of the ball, time to gel, time to come together. Y'all let me know if you think I'm wrong on that. I very well could be, but I think it's an overreaction right now. Let's get into underreaction number one. And my underreactions are things that I don't think are being talked about enough. I don't think people are spending enough time chopping these up. And my biggest one is Graham Mertz is the big man on campus right now. He looks great. And again, this is just my opinion. You guys tell me if I'm wrong or right, but I think he looks great considering our expectations. And I was looking at some of the post-game stuff, and I know partially this is because we're coming off just a bad loss, and people don't want to talk about the good, right? When you're coming off a loss like Washington State, people don't want to talk about that. But Mertz has been really good. 68% of completions. He was at 59% last year. He's up 10% on completion percentage. 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Last year, he was 10 touchdowns, 11 picks. He's taking care of the ball better. His 1 interception was off a tipped pass, right? He's been so much better on third down this year. And this is a stat Jeff Petroikis threw out there. He's 11 to 16 with 9 conversions on third down this year. And a lot of those are third and longs, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 14 he completed. Right. So we're not putting him in great spots. And he's been so good. I just don't think it's getting talked about enough. I was looking at post-game Badger blogs, websites, Badger Twitter. There's people grading him C+ for the game. No. We are not talking about how good Graham Mertz has been this year. It's amazing, by the way, that we're struggling and Graham Mertz is like the lighthouse in the offensive storm right now. Nobody would have expected that. But I think it's underrated. It's under-talked about. It's underreported how good he's been and how quality he is. And you got to give Bobby Ingram credit there. And Paul Chryst part of that as well as the guy who brought Bobby Ingram in. And if this is the Graham Mertz we have for the rest of the year, right? Like there's something there to build on. Now the rest of the offensive coaching staff has to get out of the way a little bit and let Mertz eat, which again sounds bizarre, but he's been good enough to be given that freedom. And I think they held him back. I think he's been really solid this year. Again, his numbers are up across the board. They're up in clutch moments. He's taking care of the ball. He has an ownership of the offense. He's moving around. He's definitely looks quicker. I think the deep ball's been really good, despite some weird Paul Chryst comments about that. So yeah, that's my underrated number one, underreaction number one. Overreaction number two. I've seen a lot of comments, both message boards, Twitter, putting a lot of the Washington State loss on Vito Calvaruso on the special teams. I think that's an overreaction. Maybe not the special teams in general, but like Vito's a guy, you brought him in to kick a 51-yarder, right? And for some reason, people expect that to be an automatic make. That's a hard kick. The question shouldn't be, why couldn't our kicker make two kicks and we would have won the game? The question should be, why did we need our transfer kicker who's kicked one field goal in his life, that was week 1 of this year, to be perfect to beat Washington State at home, right? Go around college football. Find me college kickers who are automatic from 51. Like it doesn't exist outside of a couple elite kids. To expect needing Vito Calvaruso to bang that 51-yard field goal to beat Washington State, like that's not realistic. It's not fair. That's not the reason we lost. Now, he needs to make the 43-yarder. Absolutely. Like he's got to bang the 43-yard field goal. But even then, it's a tie game. Like it's a 17-17 game if he hits that. And then what happens? We could still lose. Like it's not on Vito. The fact that the offense scored 14 points is the problem. Now, do special teams need to get better? Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously the way he missed those kicks, both of them were ugly. They were two of the uglier misses you will see. But that's not why we lost, guys. Scoring 14 offensive points is why we lost. And expecting your college kicker to be perfect when you need him to bang from 43 and 51, that's not realistic at the college level. I mean, there's NFL kickers that shank 51-yard field goals. So I'm not putting that on Vito. A couple other comments here. Zach Bartz, with the playoff expansion, do you believe Chris can get an at-large bid? That'd be reason to move on from I'm sorry, I misread that. Do you believe if Chris can't get an at-large bid, would that be a reason to move on from him? Yeah, I don't. I mean, I certainly don't think, and I appreciate the comment, Zach. I certainly don't think it's a goal. You can't set that as a goal every year for Wisconsin, but yeah, when they're bumping up to 12, you have to occasionally get there. And the recent trend from Paul Chryst hasn't been strong. It hasn't shown us that he can do that. Now, if you go back to like 2019, right, that 13 in 1 year, or the 2017, there's been years where we've been good enough to do it, but the recent track record is not great. And again, this is not a show for me to completely defend Paul Chryst here. Like the track record of the last couple years has been bad. I just think we're too quick to the point of we got to fire him. Like we got to let this year play out. We have to see how his coaching relationship and the play calling relationship with Bobby Ingram evolves and where this goes in the next couple weeks. If at the end of the year we're still scoring 14, 17 points a game, yeah, I think we're definitely right there then at that point. Let's get into my underreaction number 2. Another thing that I don't think is being talked about enough, and this is a two-parter. Kamoi Latu looks great. Listen, he missed a huge tackle on Nakia Watson. He lined him up. He was like a Patriot missile system, and he was going to blast him. Nakia spun off it, scored that decisive touchdown. They go up 17-14. But from a physical, toolsy dude standpoint, Latu looks the part. He looks like a taller Reggie Pearson a little bit running around back there. I mean, big, athletic, yoked up, had that great punt coverage spot where he tracked down the ball carrier and nailed him right away. I think he is the best transfer. In 3 or 4 years, you're going to look back at this transfer class with Jay Shaw, Dort, Clark, Keontae Lewis, Vito Calvaruso, and you're going to say Kamoi Latu is the best out of that group. I think he looks like a physical star and the type of kid we don't get a lot in Madison. So I don't think it's being talked about enough. The other quick one is I think Isaac Guerendo needs more touches. I think he looks explosive to me. And there's a lot of mouths to feed. I get it. You have the 4 receivers that everyone's excited about with DK, Bell, Allen, Dean Ingram, Keontae Lewis. Cundiff looks great. You have Braylon Allen. You have Ches Malusi. But at the end of the day, none of those dudes are 220 pounds with 4.4 speed, right? Like it is what it is. He's finally healthy. The Corvette is finally in the garage humming. The engine's roared up. You have to give him more touches. I don't care how you do it. A couple random kick returns and a handoff isn't enough for me. I think Guerendo needs 5 touches a game, 4 or 5 touches a game. He is so athletic. We just don't have a lot of dudes like that. And I'm sorry if that means you cut into the touches that Ches gets, if you cut into the touches that your receivers get a little bit. I think you just have to get that athlete in space while you have them healthy. And maybe they're saving some of that for Ohio State. I don't know. Let's go to overreaction number 3, offensive line struggles. I think too much is being made of this right now. The offensive line struggles. And let me paraphrase that with I don't think they've been good enough either. Okay. I don't think they've been good enough. But an offensive line running into 8-man boxes that is decisively attacking the line of scrimmage, it's putting them in a spot that's difficult, right? It's at the very least. And again, I want to be fair here. It's not 5-on-8, right? There are tight ends blocking as well. When I say there's an 8-man box, it's not like the offensive line needs to block 8 guys. The tight ends are part of that. The running backs are part of that, obviously. But it makes their job harder. They're having to run into stacked boxes, and then we're expecting 6-7 yards a carry. I don't think that the coaching staff has put them in a great position to succeed. I think the penalties have been bad, but it's also important to remember we're missing Riley Mahlman, Tanner Bortolini, new offensive line coach. Again, Bob Bostead's done it before, but I think we expected an immediate transition, and maybe it's not as immediate. And I think this line would be better if Riley Mahlman was there. And, so I think it's a little early to kill the offensive line. I don't think they've been good enough, but some of the reactions I've seen, and this is why I call it an overreaction, are writing them off, saying they're terrible. I just think they've been given a tough deck to deal with, running against stacked lines and dealing with a couple injuries. Let's go. Well, one more underreaction. So, and then we're going to finish off with the comments that we have. And again, everyone tuning in, this was just kind of an abrupt show. I want to keep talking football because there's so much to talk about. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate everybody liking the show, subscribing. It means a ton to me, guys. It really does. Last underreaction. This isn't getting talked about enough, and it's not that nobody's saying it, but Herbig needs help, right? Like, what is happening with these young edge players that we've been so hyped about? Daryl Peterson, Bowlers, Caden Johnson, that defensive line that I was hyped on, right? Keanu Benton. I thought we'd see more from Rodas Johnson. There's been 6 sacks this year. Okay. The defense has recorded 6 sacks. Herbig has 3 of them. Safeties have 2 of them. That means out of everyone else in the front 7, we have 1 sack. Okay. And that was a Jordan Turner coming up the middle. Herbig needs help. This defense needs another disruptive player. And so far, we haven't seen him emerge. We were hoping it'd be Daryl Peterson. I think we kind of knew it wouldn't be CJ Getz. We were hoping maybe it'd be Rodas Johnson, James Thompson, and maybe Jordan Turner being more disruptive. And quite frankly, those results haven't been there enough. And a defense, an offense is going to keep keying on Herbig. They're going to continue chipping. We saw them chip. Washington State chip quite a bit with Herbig. And he still got home. He's an incredible player. He's an NFL guy. His last year in Madison, he needs help. And I don't know where that help is coming from right now. We have more sacks from our secondary than any non-Herbig guy, and we can't just keep dialing up safety blitzes and hope that that's our key to relieve the pressure on Nick Herbig. We need Rodas Johnson to be more disruptive. We need CJ Getz or Daryl Peterson or whether it's Muma or Turner, someone else has to be getting home and making more disruptive plays because it can't just be on Herbig. So that's where I'm at, guys. Over under, just kind of overreactions, underreactions. I think my biggest ones are, I just think the growth from Mertz is going a little underappreciated. I think we're a little early to write the book on Chryst this season, and Herbig needs help. I would also love to see more touches from Guerendo. A couple more quick comments. I want to bang them all out quick. Really appreciate it. Zach Ramsey. I honestly believe it's time for Chryst to go. It seems he never has the team prepared for the week, and they always get surprised by simple things. Well, this was a bad one. And Zach, thank you so much for the comment. This was a bad week. They did look unprepared. They did look like they were sleepwalking. And you saw issues like a penalty, delay a game coming out of a timeout is inexcusable. With a veteran quarterback, that's inexcusable. That is 100%. There should be no reason for that to happen in week 2. There should be no reason for that to happen in week 1. There should be no reason for that to happen in a scrimmage, right? That's inexcusable. So, yeah, I understand where everybody's coming from. I'm not on board with Chryst needs to go, but I think the pressure needs to be there and we need to see some things happen. Chris Hartz, who's a great friend of the show, I do think he can bounce back. He won't hit the ground every single time like he did on the second. Yeah, so he's talking about Vito, thinking he can bounce back. Yeah, I think it was just a bad day. Like he hit 2 kicks poorly. One of them was a 51-yarder. The coaching staff brought him in for a reason. He has a huge leg. I think the reactions that he lost the game, or he's one of the big reasons, are overblown. College kickers don't bang 51-yarders usually. Jim Parks, 11 penalties, 100 plus yards, also lost the game. Not on the fire Chryst bandwagon, but 3 times in 5 years were favored heavily and crapped out. Yeah, I mean, I've talked about that before, Jim, and I really appreciate the comment. If we've now started to see a trend where teams that are heavy underdogs to Wisconsin, Illinois, BYU. That BYU game was horrendous, right? And Washington State, that Chryst has fallen to those teams. So that's Wisconsin used to be a team that really prided itself on really under the Bielema era, beating all the teams you had to beat, under the early Chryst era, beating the teams you had to beat, and then playing up, right? Playing up to the Ohio States, the Michigans. And now we started to play down to the Cougars, playing down to BYU, playing down to Illinois, while not upsetting anybody. What was the last upset Wisconsin scored? I was talking about this with Mike, who was on the show yesterday. What was the last team that Wisconsin upset? And yet we're seeing several teams starting to upset Wisconsin now. That's a bad trend. Jim, I totally agree there. Dallas Cowboys. I love Mertz, but the fact that he was the best player in the field Saturday says something. If the rest of the team can step up, we can be really good. Mertz was the big question mark, 100%. And that's not being talked about enough. Mertz is good. Now, we have 2 data points. It's not enough. One of them was against Illinois State. This one's Washington State. But we had a bunch of data points against bad teams last year where Mertz was terrible. So we have enough data points now where we can say it looks like something's changed. That doesn't mean Mertz is an NFL guy. It doesn't mean he's going to beat Ohio State. It doesn't mean he's a future first-round pick. But the completion percentage is up. The decision-making is better. Now, all these other parts that we were more confident in, the offensive line, the running game, it has to come around and coalesce around him. But there should be reasons for optimism here for Badger fans. Like, Mertz is putting it together. This was our biggest question, and he's answering it. Now, these other things that we're more confident in have to come together. Zach Ramsey, Isaac for running back 2, have been calling for it. Even if he's a decoy, he makes people pay attention to him. Yes, that's exactly it, Zach. You're the man. That's exactly it. Isaac Guerendo is so big and fast. I've said before, he reminds me of Tevin Coleman, right? The former Indiana running back that went to the NFL. He's that type of athlete, and we just never used him because he's never been healthy. Listen, it's no disrespect to Ches, but Isaac's a bigger, faster dude. Put him in motion, jet sweep, wheel route, screen pass, use him as a decoy. I think we need to see more of it. I think he's explosive. So, yeah, 100% agree, man. Russell Wilson. Oh, hey, Russ, what's going on, man? Says O-line struggling. They have to block. It showed last week. They let Burkett get smacked right away. It's true. Yeah. Good old Miles got in there, and they let pressure right up the middle, and he got destroyed. Yeah, the O-line is struggling. When I say I think it's an overreaction to trash on them a little bit, it's probably more – I think there's a middle ground here, right? Let's acknowledge the fact that the O-line hasn't been as good as we thought it would be, or as good as they need to be. But there's also reasons for that I think can explain some of the way. Injuries, new offensive coach, and running into stacked boxes. None of that is conducive to putting the offense line in a good spot to succeed. So I think there's a balance there. Really appreciate the comment. Russ, good luck in Denver. Jim Parks, 8 in the box point is correct, which is why we might transition to Mertz making them pay with the pass. The template at beating Wisconsin is to smother the run, make them pay with the air. Yeah, Jim, you and I are on the same page, man. Will Paul Chryst do it? Right? That's the thing. Like, stop running into stacked boxes. Stop putting your offensive line in a position where, they have to basically run uphill, where they're constantly fighting against stunts and run blitzes and safeties in the box and linebackers screaming off the edge. At some point, you have to roll up your sleeves and say, we have a junior quarterback in a deep receiving group. And by the way, let's be clear here. I think for the most part, the offensive line has been pretty good in pass pro, right? There's been some foibles. Nobody's ever going to be perfect, right? This isn't the 90s Dallas Cowboys with 4 offensive linemen going to the Hall of Fame, but they've been pretty good in pass pro. Mertz has stayed pretty upright. So let's play into that. We need to pass more. 100% agree, Jim. Zach Bartz, agree with not judging Chryst so soon. But if we do move on from him down the road, do you give a shot or do you maybe give him a shot in the recruiting department? Maybe not the head guy, but a gig reaching out to high school coaches. I would say no. I get where you're coming from, Zach. Like, I think Paul Chryst is an incredibly relatable one-on-one dude. I think that's been a big part of his success. He builds a great culture. He fosters relationships. He's done a lot of good stuff, right? Again, when we talk about players, coaches not doing well enough, not doing something, there's always middle ground to these things. Like Chris has done a lot of really good things. We talked about Reggie Pearson and the comments he made about the Wisconsin locker room, the chemistry, the culture. That's a direct reflection of Paul Chryst, right? The fact that, players come in and coaches come in and talk about how special Madison is and what this locker room is all about. That again is a reflection of Paul Chryst and his ability to build relationships. So Zach, I hear what you're saying in terms of giving Chryst, if you were to move on in the future, a shot in the recruiting department. But I don't think Chryst, I just don't think he would have the energy for it. I don't think he would want to do it. And I think you could find a younger guy who still could build relationships. Zach Ramsey, we'll finish up here. Appreciate the live, great insight as always. Oh man, no, thank you. And for everyone listening, thank you guys so much. Again, it was just a quick show, but there's so much football to talk about. I definitely want to keep giving you guys content. Remember, coming up, a couple things. In our giveaway this week, join the Discord if you're not in it. I think we're giving away, I think this week is a Monte Ball autographed jersey card, a really nice Letterman patch card. Last week was a Fanatics gift card. The week before was a James White auto. Join the Discord if you're not in there. Great spot to talk Badgers, all Badger stuff. Build the community. That's what it's all about. Really appreciate everybody tuning in. We're going to have Cole LaCrue coming on the show pretty soon. Really excited kid. He's really excited about Madison and the potential of maybe being that quarterback. So that's going to be a fun one. We got Jason Jordan from Sports Illustrated Recruiting coming up. We're going to talk about Daniel Freitag, Nolan Winter, all the basketball recruiting stuff. And we have another question and answer show coming up where we're getting all the comments from the community into the show. So lots of really good stuff coming up. If you just continue watching the show, supporting it, I really appreciate it. We're going to keep building this thing together. Tim, Nolan Rucci should be starting at right tackle. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wish I had more insight on that. I'm never going to blow smoke with you guys. I always keep it real. I don't know. I think Riley Mahlman looked good week one in the time he was there. I know he has a ton of upside. The length and the size is ridiculous. If we're talking Rucci or Brown, that's a different conversation. I think Mahlman is supposed to be back pretty soon. I thought Brown was okay. Like there was some moments for sure. And I think there's a reason he wasn't the starter to begin the season. But I don't know. We'll have to see where Mahlman is. I think that's Mahlman's job as long as he doesn't have a long-term injury. And with that, everybody, I appreciate it. On Wisconsin, we're going to talk again tomorrow. Look for the Cole LaCrue interview. Join the Discord if you want to. And from there, on Wisconsin.